everybody, this is Rob.
And I'm Dave.
And welcome to R&B Reviews. With the new live-action Hobbit movie coming out, Dave and I decided to go back and look at some other adaptations of J.R.R. Tolkien's work. And we're going to start with the cartoon version of The Hobbit that was made for TV back in 1977. And Dave, this is what basically, for many people this is what got me introduced to J.R.R. Tolkien's books. We used to have this on video back when I was a kid, so that's how I got introduced to the worlds of Hobbits and Lord of the Rings through that.
Yeah, I was actually introduced not through this, but through this this one teacher that I had back in elementary school that introduced me about. It was like 6th grade when I got introduced, because this one teacher's aide let me borrow all the books at one time because her husband owned them, and she let me read them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so either way, I mean, with this movie, you know, this is my introduction to it, and this is I gotta say, even though the animation isn't great looking like you would, let's say, from somebody else like Disney, this one, I think the style and the drawings fit the story perfectly regardless.
Yeah, this is pretty much the same kind of animation as like the old Japanese animation, the original animes before they started using like strict CGI. This is the older stuff, way that like anime cartoons would look. This type of animation.
Well, do you think that this cartoon was a decent adaptation of the book?
I think so. Yeah, they put in pretty much everything. I mean, there is a lot they left out. Like for instance, they left out when they go and visit, when the dwarves and Gandalf and the Hobbit go visit Bjorn the hunter. They left that out. Now, I wonder if they're going to put that in the new live action movie.
Probably, because they usually try, for the most part, they've usually stuck somewhat close to the books. I mean, this cartoon was originally shown as in a 2-hour slot for TV, so this one moves at a pretty quick pace. It's 78 minutes, plus you had the commercials, so they had this adaptation, I think, would be a good way to introduce kids to it, because, you know, it's sort of like you get the gist of each scene in the story, but you don't get a chance to go into complete, you know, detail of everything. I mean, it's a crash course sort of.
Yeah, and it's non-violent, really. It's at least, I mean, there's a little bit of violence with the battle scene, but it's like shot from far away, and they more talk you through it than actually show it. And when they actually show the battle, it's like little dots, like ants on the screen, and
you do see dead bodies later.
Yeah, but not like disgustingly like the live action movie could be and whatnot, like the live action Lord of the Rings movies. And then this movie really isn't like scary at all, because they make the spiders, they're not really that scary. They're more like fuzzy friendly, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when I was a kid, I thought Gollum was kind of a scary creature. This adaptation is, like I said, it gives you a gist of what the story is all about. I think there were some missed opportunities with it. I mean, if they had more time, you know, to actually make it into a feature-length movie for the theaters, perhaps if they could have gone into more detail about it, because I think they rushed through a lot of scenes. The only scenes that really you get a chance to have the characters develop, there's only 3. There's one where the dwarves and Gandalf and Bilbo are looking at the map of Lonely Mountain, and you kind of see that Thorin is a bit of a proud, stubborn sort of character.
Yeah.
There's the scene with Gollum, which is, in my opinion, the best scene out of the whole movie, because you spend more time seeing how twisted and messed up and screwed up and crazily funny.
But they didn't make him look. They didn't really make him look that scary. I mean, like they could have.
Well, I think what made him kind of scary for me is that, you know, it's because he's voiced by a dark humor comedian named Theodore, and he did a lot of twisted monologue stuff in his career, and he makes Gollum into this messed up, darkly funny sort of character, and that's probably why. And another good scene is, let's see, what was it? Smog's scene. You get to spend a bit of that with Bilbo and Smog. So I mean, those are the only 3, in my opinion, where you get to see a lot of character development. A lot of times they rush through all these different scenes, and you don't get a chance to get to know everything. And if you read the books, there's more to it than what you see here. I think it's a decent adaptation. I think some Tolkien fans might be disappointed with this adaptation, but I think if your kids are just getting into it and you're not sure if the live action movies are quite right for them, I think the Hobbit, this cartoon version of the Hobbit,
this is definitely good for all ages. I'd say probably like, I'd say that like the youngest age you could probably watch this at is probably like maybe like 10 or 11 and not be scared or offended.
Yeah, and one more thing I will say is the voices that were cast for this movie were all perfect in my opinion. Whenever I read the book, I hear John Huston as Gandalf, I hear Orson Bean as Bilbo, I hear Richard Boone as Smaug, I hear Brother Theodore as Gollum, because you know, they had such distinctive voices, and they really fit these characters well. Even though you don't always get to know all the characters very well, the voices somehow make up for it. I think it was very excellently casted. I think they picked the right people. I think that, and they also, faithful to the book, they used the songs and the poems from the book very well in the cartoon.
Right. Yeah, it's real catchy with that too, because you got the music and all that. They tried to dress it up like that, so it's like more for kids, because I'm sure in the live action movie they're not going to have like all that little songs and monologues. It's going to be more like an actual movie more.
Yeah, well, I think they're probably going to include some, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to guess they're going to include some of Tolkien's poetry from the book in there in one way or another.
But they're not going to have all the they're not going to have all the dramatization songs like they did in this. They're more or less just going to like show the scene.
Even though the target audience for this movie was mostly kids, I do agree that it's a good starting point, and it also created a lot of merchandise. Like, we dug up our old stuff. Like, here is the Hobbit that was released as a soundtrack record about the same time that the movie aired on TV, so there's that. And I also found my old book and record. Many people might remember the old book and records when you actually had a book and you put on a record, or you put on a tape or a CD and you read along with it.
It's got the 45 in there.
Yeah, well, it's not it's the size of a 45, but it runs at the 33 1/3 speed.
Yeah.
So, but overall with The Hobbit, even though it's got its flaws, it was made for kids and it was, for TV, so you had a shorter time span. Right. I think it's a decent adaptation of The Hobbit, and I think it's a good starting point for kids for learning about Tolkien's work.
Yeah, I agree, definitely.
All right, well, that's all we have for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you have seen the cartoon version of The Hobbit, go ahead and post your thoughts, and thank you very much for watching.